Before you dive into this scary story, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like it. It helps us create new scary stories. In the cold, pre-dawn gloom of the forest, where darkness merged with the first glimmers of day, a group of people, exhausted from endless searches for a better life, made their way through the dense undergrowth. Their faces, worn by a long and perilous journey, reflected both hope and despair. These migrants, having left behind their shattered homelands, dreamed of a new beginning. Yet their path led them through a forest the locals called the Forest of Forgotten Shadows. A long, narrow trail, winding between ancient trees that seemed as old as time, appeared as if drawn by an unseen hand of destiny. The rustle of leaves underfoot sounded like the whisper of times long past, and the soft howl of the wind resembled the beat of a heart cursed never to be forgotten. In this forest, at the border between the world of the living and that beyond, every tree and every crack in the bark concealed its own secret. "We're almost there," murmured Nazar, the group's leader, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting to see something inexplicable. His voice trembled, yet determination burned in his eyes. Behind him followed Liuba, Amin, and several others, each bearing a story full of pain and loss. They knew that crossing this border might be their last chance at a new life, but the forest held many secrets, and none knew which mystical forces were stirring within its depths. "Do you hear that rustling?" asked Liuba, clutching an old amulet that, by legend, was meant to protect her from evil spirits. Around them, sounds emerged, almost imperceptible footsteps. Perhaps it was merely the wind, or maybe something else. Among the branches, shadows flickered, casting strange silhouettes on the ground. Yami noticed that one of the shadows moved too deliberately, as if it were watching them. The migrants halted, straining to hear the forest's whisper, and in that moment, it became clear. They were not alone. Suddenly, from behind a thicket, a muffled yet firm voice emerged, seeming to come from the very depths of the earth. "You have disturbed the peace of these ancient lands, and now the forest demands a toll." The words echoed among the trees, chilling the blood in their veins. Nazar clenched his fist, trying to remain calm, though fear flashed in his eyes. "Who are you?" he asked, even as he sensed the answer in the depths of his soul. There was no reply, only an increasing rustle, as if thousands of unseen footsteps were drawing near. The migrants stood, encircled by a darkness that now felt as thick and alive as the very curse of forgotten times. Night draped the forest, and moonlight filtered through the dense canopy, creating ominous patterns on the damp ground. Realizing they had no time for lingering doubts, the migrants set up a temporary shelter on a small clearing surrounded by ancient oaks, whose branches intertwined in a silent, eternal embrace. In the hush of the night, every sound took on a special meaning. Seated by the campfire, Liuba watched the flickering tongues of flame when she suddenly felt a chill creeping up her back. Turning around, she saw, amid the darkness between the trees, a figure resembling a human, but not quite. The figure moved with a smooth, almost weightless gait, as if it floated above the ground, its eyes glowing with a cold blue light. "Who's there?" Liuba asked timidly, her voice trembling as she tried to stifle her fear. Yet no answer came. The figure only drew closer, its presence causing even the fire's light to waver, as if the flame itself was gripped by terror. "We seek no quarrel," declared Nazar, rising and attempting to show that he was ready for whatever might come. But his words dissolved into the night air, and the figure faded away, leaving only a faint glimmer that soon dimmed. It became apparent to everyone that the forest was testing their spirit. Amin, the youngest among them, recalled the stories told by the elders in his homeland, legends of wandering spirits of lost wayfarers who roamed the forest, seeking those who dared cross the boundary between worlds. Now, those legends seemed no longer mere tales, but a living reality, woven into the dark tapestry of the night. One by one, the migrants began to share their stories of past losses and their hopes for a brighter future. These accounts, laden with bitterness and longing, helped unite them in the face of the unknown threat. Yet, with each passing minute, the forest grew ever more animated and demanding, reminding them that it neither forgets nor forgives. At dawn, as the sky began to blush with gentle pinks and purples, the migrants resolved to press on. They understood that crossing the border was not only a chance for a new life, but also a trial, demanding courage and unity. The morning brought an illusion of calm, yet an undercurrent of anxiety still beat within each of them. Along their path, they encountered an abandoned border outpost, once built to guard the territory, now long forsaken by man. The ruins, cloaked in moss and lichen, as if nature itself wished to erase the marks of human intrusion, bore strange symbols and inscriptions on their remnants, a warning carved in stone. Honor the memory of those who did not return. Nazar approached and examined the inscriptions when a strange glimmer caught his eye, emanating from beneath the rubble. With effort, he lifted a piece of stone to reveal a small niche in the wall. Inside lay a medallion, adorned with enigmatic runes that seemed to shimmer in the morning sun. Suddenly, the medallion trembled in his hands, and Nazar felt a cold wind brush against his spine, as if an invisible hand had touched his very soul. "This is a sign," Nazar whispered, his voice mingling wonder and fear as he gazed at the medallion. Liuba stepped closer. A sign of what? Fate? Or perhaps a curse? Nazar merely shrugged, unable to offer an answer. They decided to keep the medallion, believing it might be the key to unlocking the forest's mysteries. Their journey continued along a narrow path where every step resonated deeply within them. The forest seemed to come alive. Trees bent as though whispering ancient incantations, and the grass rustled as if preparing to reveal its story. Every stone, every twig seemed to carry memories of the past, of those who had once sought salvation in this eerie place. Night fell once again, and the group halted to rest. Yet the calm was deceptive. In the stillness of the night, strange sounds emerged, whispers not carried by the wind, but seemingly emanating from the earth itself. Amin, now accustomed to fear, began to softly recite the incantations taught by the elders of his childhood, hoping to shield the group from malevolent forces. But every word echoed back, as if another voice repeated them from the depths of the ground. "I feel as though we are being watched," Amin said, gazing into the darkness where the moon's light painted ghostly silhouettes. "Perhaps they aren't watching but summoning?" suggested Liuba, pressing the medallion to her chest, a symbol of both hope and warning. "We must keep moving," Nazar declared resolutely, though his voice betrayed uncertainty. "We have come too far to retreat. The border is our chance, and the forest is filled with mysteries we must unravel." And so, under the cloak of night, with ghostly voices of the past all around, they pressed on, unaware that every step drew them closer to the very heart of the mystical enigma. With every mile, the forest grew increasingly inexplicable. The branches seemed to change direction on their own, as if deliberately trying to lead unwelcome guests astray. The migrants increasingly sensed the presence of something supernatural, invisible, yet palpably ominous. In their dreams, images of ancient rituals, forgotten peoples, and mysterious creatures wandering the nocturnal expanses appeared. One night, as the moon reached high among the treetops, Liuba awoke with the unsettling feeling of being observed. She peered out of her tent's flap and saw a figure flickering in the dark. A slender, almost transparent form, as if crafted from the night itself. The figure drew near, its eyes igniting with a strange fire, full of sorrow and eternal grief. Have you come for me?" Liuba whispered, feeling an icy chill permeate every cell of her body. The figure did not answer. Its gaze alone conveyed a deep connection to the ancient pain of this place. Suddenly, the medallion Liuba had so carefully cherished burst into a soft, bluish glow, as if responding to the presence of the unseen entity. In that moment, she understood that her bond with this forest ran deeper than she had ever imagined. Hearing Liuba's voice, Nizar rushed out of the tent to see what was happening. But when he reached her spot, only a faint glimmer remained in the darkness. A long suppressed fear awakened in him, a fear he had tried so hard to bury. He recalled the old legends warning that the forest safeguarded the souls of those who crossed the border, without having offered a final prayer of hope. "We must continue," Nizar said, his voice laced with apprehension. "It seems that answers await us deep within the forest." Thus began their journey along a path where every tree appeared to be a living witness of eras gone by. The road led them to ancient ruins, where time itself had frozen, and even the wind could not erase the memories of old. Here, among crumbling walls and fallen arches, the migrants found relics and artifacts, perhaps left behind by the inhabitants of these lands, in a desperate hope to protect their legacy from oblivion. Among these discoveries, they unearthed a diary whose pages were filled with bizarre marks and entries chronicling tragic events of years past. The diary belonged to a man who had once tried to escape the horrors of war and found refuge in this very forest. But his writings soon devolved into frenzied scribbles, as if he sensed that something indescribable was stalking him through the night. "Listen," Nizar said, reading one of the pages aloud. "We have stepped onto forbidden soil, where every sound is the cry of the dead, and every rustle is an omen of doom. Here the boundary between worlds is erased, and the souls of the lost wander eternally. Never finding rest, these words quickened the hearts of the migrants. They realized that their journey was not merely a physical crossing of a border, but a venture into the depths of human fear and ancient mysteries. Winding through a labyrinth of branches and shadows, the group unexpectedly found themselves on an open clearing, where time seemed to stand still. The air here was heavy, with the scent of damp earth and ancient herbs, and the silence was so profound, it felt as if it could be cut with a knife. At the center of the clearing stood an old stone pillar, covered in runes that glowed with a dim green light. This pillar appeared to be the epicenter of a force, drawing the attention of all who dared to approach. Nizar stepped toward the pillar, and extending his hand, touched its cold surface. In that moment, the space around him began to distort, as if opening a portal to another realm. Memories of childhood, ancient legends, and forgotten rituals surged through him with an intensity he had never experienced. He saw images of people who had once trodden this very path, and heard their laments echoing from a distant past. All these visions merged into a single flow, leaving him with an overwhelming sense of inevitable fate. "This place," Nazar murmured. "Here, time and space intertwine, and the boundary between life and death is erased." Liuba and Amin joined him, each feeling their hearts fill with a strange, almost hypnotic light. The medallion they had discovered shone even brighter now, confirming the significance of this moment. Yet with that brilliance came a foreboding. The awakened forest was now revealing its true nature. From the depths of the clearing came a roar, a sound like the lament of 1,000 voices, and dark clouds quickly gathered, obscuring the moon. The wind grew fierce, carrying with it the scent of burning wood and damp mold. It seemed nature itself was foretelling disaster should they continue their journey. But there was no turning back. The border they had so desperately sought beckoned them with its mysterious power. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and from beneath the pillar arose a thin, almost transparent figure that slowly assumed a human shape. Its face was marred by countless scars and deep wrinkles, and its eyes shone with an icy gleam. This entity, as if embodying all the suffering and fears of the departed, whispered, "You, lost souls, have dared to enter the forbidden zone where rest does not exist, and darkness reigns eternal. Each of you will pay the price for your desire to find a new life." These words, steeped in ancient wisdom and unmeasurable sorrow, resonated within each migrant's consciousness. In that moment, they understood. The border they had sought was not merely a line on a map, but a place where worlds collide, a place where the ghosts of the past reside, and every decision bears the weight of an eternal choice. Overcome with emotion and trembling with inner turmoil, the migrants froze, listening to the entity's voice, a voice both merciless and tragic. Summoning all his courage, Nazar stepped forward. "We have come here in search of hope," he began, his voice quivering yet resolute. "Perhaps our journey will be arduous, but we carry the memories of our loved ones and the dream of a better future. We do not fear the trials, even if they stem from ancient curses." Those around him wavered between fear and faith in a brighter tomorrow. Liuba clutched the medallion tightly, feeling its warmth seep into her soul, granting her strength and assurance. Amin, recalling the lessons taught to him in childhood, softly repeated incantations, calling upon ancient forces to support them in this battle for life. "May the forest accept us," Nazar declared, "and may our hearts, filled with light, banish the darkness of this place." He looked directly into the icy eyes of the spectral entity. In that instant, a strange ritual began to unfold around them. The trees, as if coming to life, whispered ancient words, and the wind carried echoes of thousands of voices. The medallion burst forth in radiant light, reflecting a brilliance that penetrated the very core of each migrant. Every word, every movement seemed part of a grand rite, destined to decide the fate of all present. The entity, witnessing their bravery, inclined its head slightly, an acknowledgement of their right to live. Yet its voice, cold and solemn, resounded once more. "The path you have chosen is laden with pain and suffering, yet within it lies the spark of salvation. You must undergo trials that will reveal the essence of your souls. Only by enduring them can you truly gain freedom." With these words, the dark sky itself appeared to split open as flashes of light danced overhead, as if the gods were watching this ritual. The migrants, feeling the ancient forces permeate their bodies, realized that their fate was now inextricably bound to this forest, this border where time and space merged into one. "Come," Nazar said softly, gathering the remaining light in his heart. "Our journey is not over. Let fear give way to faith, and darkness to light. We must press on." The following days proved to be a true test of will and spirit. The forest seemed to test their resolve, presenting new enigmas and traps at every turn. The trail leading to the border grew ever more winding and convoluted. Each step was accompanied by surreal visions. One moment, an unseen shadow appeared to follow them. The next, they saw silhouettes of long-departed souls wandering this world. In the pre-dawn mist, Nazar and his companions discovered an abandoned church, half-ruined yet still standing as a mute witness to a bygone era. Its doors, adorned with carved images of saints and demons, seemed to beckon them inside. Within, a stifling silence reigned, broken only by the feeble light filtering through rusted windows that illuminated ancient altar stones. Upon the altar lay an old parchment inscribed with incomprehensible symbols and images. Cautiously, Lyuba picked it up, and at that moment, it was as if the church walls came alive, recounting the history of a forgotten rite, a ritual interweaving faith with a lingering curse. The parchment described ceremonies of purification and appeals to ancient forces, venerated by the inhabitants of this land, centuries before war and ruin scarred it. "Perhaps this will help us understand what awaits us at the border," suggested Lyuba, studying the ancient signs intently. Nazar, feeling an inexplicable draw to the parchment's inscriptions, began to recite the words written on it. As soon as he uttered the first syllables, the air around them shimmered, and terror and awe spread across the faces of the migrants. The ancient writings glowed with a soft golden light, as if each letter were alive and brimming with power. In that moment, the forest outside the church seemed to awaken in a new dimension. The rustling of leaves, the sounds of nocturnal creatures, and the faint beat of ancient hearts merged into a single symphonic tapestry, one that testified to the truth that the boundary between life and death was indeed as delicate as a flower's petal, trembling in the wind. "We must move on," Nazar declared, understanding that the ritual was not only a trial, but also a true act of purification. Our path is one of redemption, and each of us must find within ourselves the strength to accept our destiny. Led by the strange light and the power of those ancient words, the migrants left the church and proceeded toward a place where, according to legend, the boundary between worlds was most tangible. Along the way, trials awaited them, not only external dangers, but also confrontations with their inner demons. In each of them, a battle raged between fear and hope, between the darkness of the past and the light of the future. Day gave way to night, and the migrants felt as though time itself had lost its meaning in this forest, a place where every moment brimmed with enigmas and tests. As they drew closer to the border itself, the forest began to change around them. The grass grew softer, the trees denser, and the air richer, as though imbued with ancient energies long dormant. One evening, as the sun sank behind the horizon, the group came upon a strange lake whose waters were as black as tar, mirroring the gloomy sky. At the lake's edge stood an old stone monument adorned with reliefs, depicting scenes of battles and rituals. Nazar paused before the monument, his gaze lingering on the symbols carved with such meticulous care that they seemed to convey the very essence of life and death. This place is a threshold, Nazar whispered, where the boundary between worlds is so fine that one might easily lose oneself in it, forgetting even one's own identity. Liuba, clutching the medallion even tighter, sensed as if from the depths of the lake a thin mist was rising, gradually transforming into surreal figures. These figures, like reflections of lost souls, swirled above the water, a reminder that every redemption exacts its price. Among them, she recognized silhouettes of people who, in her heart, seemed part of her past, part of those she had lost. Amin, standing apart and watching, spoke with a mixture of fear and determination. We must remember who we are and accept what fate has decreed. Only then can we gather the strength to continue. Nazar nodded, and gazing at his companions said, "Each of us carries a spark of light, and even if darkness tries to engulf us, we must remember, within our hearts burns a fire capable of dispelling the deepest shadows, accompanied by the soft lapping of the dark water and the murmurs of ancient voices." The migrants reached the very edge of the lake. Here, the boundary between worlds was nearly tangible, a barely perceptible line, visible only in the water's reflection. This threshold beckoned with its mystery, promising both salvation and peril simultaneously. They stood on the cusp of the unknown, aware that ahead lay new trials, new encounters with enigmatic forces, and perhaps answers to the questions that had tormented their souls. In that moment, Liuba gripped the medallion even more firmly, feeling its warmth merge with her own energy, giving her the confidence and strength to move forward. "If we truly wish to find light," she murmured, "we must first embrace the darkness that surrounds us. Only then can we overcome all obstacles." With those words, to the sound of a night filled with echoes of forgotten histories, the migrants took a decisive step forward, leaving behind all they had known, and stepping into a realm where every shadow, every sound, and every breath became part of a grand mystical symphony. When they crossed that invisible line, the forest around them seemed transformed. The wind became gentler, and the trees appeared to welcome them with a soft rustle of leaves. Yet even in this seemingly idyllic state, the migrants could not forget the trials they had endured. Every step forward resonated in their hearts, reminding them of the losses and fears they had left behind. Now, as the sky lightened with the first rays of the sun, a new world unfolded before them, one where every plant and every creature seemed alive with awareness, living by ancient laws. Nazar looked around as if trying to capture every moment of this magical awakening. "Look at how the forest breathes, how it lives," he said, pointing to the tiny droplets of dew sparkling on the leaves. "It is as if it wishes to remind us that even after the darkest night comes the dawn." Liuba, still holding the medallion, listened intently to the awakening sounds of the forest. To her, each melody was a symbol of newfound hope, and every cool caress of air a sign that life persists despite everything. She recalled the words spoken inside the church, and realized that every trial, every fear, was but a part of the journey toward true liberation. Amin, gradually finding solace, gazed up at the brightening sky, seeking answers to the questions that had long tormented his soul. He understood that now, with the border behind them, they must not only find a new home, but also summon the strength to reconcile with their past, to let go of the bitterness of loss, and open their hearts to love and faith. Yet the forest was not ready to let them go so easily. Ahead, an ancient path reappeared, strewn with symbols left by those who had once sought salvation. Stones inscribed with words in a forgotten tongue told the story of struggle and belief, a tale in which the fates of many generations intertwined. Nazar paused before one such stone, and bending over, read aloud, "Those who seek the light must pass through the darkness, seek the strength within, and fear not the pain. Borders are but an illusion concealing the truth, for within every heart lies an eternal awakening." These words seem to penetrate each soul, stirring ancient powers and evoking images of long-lost eras. The migrants realized that their journey was not merely a physical relocation, but a spiritual quest that led to self-discovery and reconciliation with one's innermost being. In the distance, the gentle chime of bells was heard, as if someone were welcoming their arrival. Those sounds, both delicate and majestic, enveloped them in a sense of peace and assurance. Every ring of the bell appeared to tell a story of great harmony that connected the realm of the living with that of the spirits. "Let's move forward," Nazar said, feeling an invisible force guiding their path. "May each trial become a stepping stone to our awakening, to a new beginning." They continued along the path, where every stone and every branch recounted the story of those who had once walked this way. The forest greeted them both tenderly and sternly, as if testing their faith and resolve. But with every step, the feeling grew stronger that the light they sought was nearer than ever. At sunset, when the sky blazed in fiery reds and golden hues, the migrants reached the final stage of their journey, a place where the forest seemed to transform into something otherworldly. Before them lay a vast clearing, dotted with wildflowers shining in the glow of the setting sun. This place was like the crowning moment of their long and perilous journey, a border that divided the past and the future, fear and hope, darkness and light. Nazar stepped forward and paused in the center of the clearing. He raised the medallion that Liuba had so carefully guarded, and looking at the radiant sunset, he declared, "Here, at this crossroads of worlds, our new path begins. Let each of us find within ourselves the strength to embrace our destiny, and despite the darkness of the past, welcome the light into our hearts." At that moment, the sky filled with thin, almost transparent silhouettes, apparitions of those who had once sought deliverance and found it here, at the border between worlds. Their voices, tender yet sorrowful, melded into one melodic hymn extolling life and rebirth. Liuba, lowering her gaze to the medallion, felt a warming radiance flood her being. Every moment of her soul, every breath, filled with the realization that her journey was not merely an escape from pain, but a quest for profound truth, a truth to which all living beings aspire. She lifted her eyes and saw the same spark reflected in the eyes of her companions, a spark capable of conquering any darkness. "We have endured trials," she said softly, "and now, despite all we have lost, we shall claim our new life. May this clearing stand as a symbol of our renewal and faith in a brighter future." At that very moment, as if bestowing its blessing from above, a gentle rain of sparkling droplets began to fall from the sky, each drop reflecting the beauty of the world. This rain was not mere water, it was like tears of joy, a reminder that every pain eventually gives way to healing. Amin, standing nearby, raised his hands to the heavens, as if accepting this gift of fate, and murmured words of gratitude. His voice, filled with wonder and conviction, merged with the whispering wind as his prayers were carried away into the endless expanse. "We know that many more trials lie ahead," Nazar said, gazing at his fellow travelers. "But it is through these trials that we gain the strength to change our destiny. Our story is just beginning, and this forest, with all its mysteries and mystical signs, will remain a part of our great journey." In that clearing, surrounded by a nature imbued with ancient rites and the voices of bygone eras, the migrants felt that they were no longer alone. Deep within the forest, in every rustle of the leaves and every glimmer of the sunset, they saw the images of those who had gone before and those who would follow. They understood that their fate was not solely the result of their own choices, but a part of an eternal story written by all who dare to dream and search for light, even in the deepest darkness. As night descended gently and the stars began to twinkle high above, the migrants, filled with renewed faith and determination, took the final step toward their new life. The border they had sought was no longer just a line on a map. It had become a symbol of transition, a rite of purification, and above all, a hope for a better future. This story is not merely a tale of fear and mysticism. It is a chronicle of human resilience, a search for light in the darkest times, a triumph over inner demons, and an acceptance of fate as it is. May its echo remain with you, a reminder that even in the most sinister forest, behind every turn lies the chance for a new beginning. If you enjoyed this mystical journey, be sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share this video with your friends. Your support helps us continue to tell stories that touch the soul and rekindle our belief in miracles. Weeks after that fateful journey, the destinies of the migrants diverged along different paths, yet their hearts remained forever bound to the forest of forgotten shadows. Nazar became a local storyteller, recounting the tale of the border between worlds, so that no one might forget that every trial carries the possibility of discovering truth and light. Liuba, with her medallion, found solace in the mystical forces of the forest that had granted her the strength to accept her fate. Amin devoted his life to the study of ancient rites, so that through the wisdom of the past, he might help others find their way through the darkness. Sometimes, on quiet nights, when the moonlight illuminates the old trails, one can hear the forest whispering about those who dared to cross the border between worlds. Its sounds remind us that fear and hope are inseparable, and every loss is merely a step on the path to great rebirth. Thus, life continues, full of mystical secrets, ancient rites, and the endless search for light that can always be found even in the deepest darkness. And if you ever find yourself at the boundary between worlds, remember, beyond every trial lies the possibility of attaining true freedom in love